Today we will be talking about referencing user exceptions. Well, OutSystems does not allow user exceptions to be public, which means you can't reuse them across your applications. But there's a workaround. First, we need to have a static entity of user exception types. So I'll add a few sample records here. Maintenance mode, then email not verified, and API error. Then we also need a structure for this with attributes user exception type ID and error message. Now let's create a user exception. We need to pass the structure here that we just created, but this only accepts text data type. So in order to do that, we need to use JSON serialize to convert that structure into a text. Let's create an action here with input parameter of user exception type ID and the error message. Then the JSON text as the output. Let's assign the inputs to the structure. Then add JSON serialize and assign the output. Now let's go back to the sample web block and use that action. Make sure you set it as function. Let's set the type as API error and error message to 404 not found. We'll do the same for the other buttons on click actions. Change the type to email not verified and the message. And lastly, for the maintenance mode. So we just did the serialize part. Now we also have to deserialize it back to the structure. Let's create that action. This will be called from the applications on exception handler. Let's add an input of the JSON and the structure as the output. Be sure to add an exception handler because user exceptions always accepts text. So if it's an invalid JSON, this will throw an error. Let's publish. Let's go to the app and reference the necessary items. Now under command, let's open the on exception. We're going to modify this all exceptions flow. Let's add the deserialization action, pass the exception message, then add a switch. We're going to add conditions here for each user exception types. From here, you can set whatever necessary logic that you need for every exceptions. So in this example, for maintenance mode, we will redirect this to the maintenance screen. For email not verified, we will just show the actual error message. Then for everything else, including the API error that we made, we'll just show this generic error message. Let's publish. So in the screen, we have 3 buttons that will trigger their respective user exceptions. If we click maintenance mode, we will be redirected to the maintenance screen. Then for email not verified, this will show the actual error message that we set. Lastly, for API error, so instead of showing 404 not found, this will just show the generic error message. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.